Off in the salty ocean, off where the waves roll free. The sparkling water rises, then crashes to the sea. Out amongst the breakers, you'll have no need to fear. It's true, it's the blue frontier.
Welcome to another episode of Rising Tide, the Ocean Podcast. This is David Helvarga. My co-host, Vicki Nichols-Goldstein, is temporarily home from her many adventure travels. So, hey, Vicki.
Hello, and it's delightful to be here with everyone.
Vicki and I are both among up to 10 million active scuba divers worldwide, and most of us depend on local and sometimes away dive shops for our gear, training, travel, and more. But what goes into running a dive shop, and how do you both sell the experience while also informing and educating your customers about challenges that await in our rapidly changing ocean? Those are some of the questions we have today for our guest, Natalie Shuman, the owner of Sun Divers Roatan, located on the famous island on the Meso-American Reef off the Atlantic coast of Honduras, a certified scuba instructor, co-founder of a scuba scholarship program called Roa Girls Dive, a board member of the Roatan Marine Park, and much more. We're really glad that we're able to dive into these subjects with you today, Natalie. But first, here's some blue news you can use. Once again, the end of July marks Shark Week, and here's a toothsome story I'll guarantee you won't see on the Discovery Channel. You might think great white sharks are all cold-blooded killers, and you'd be wrong. They're actually warm-blooded predators. Along with basking sharks, bluefin tuna, and a tiny handful of other large fish, they're known as methotherms, meaning they can trap metabolic heat in their bodies so that they're warmer than the surrounding seawater. That makes them able to move faster, which makes them better hunters and killers, even if you're just a basking shark killing zooplankton and tiny fish. The problem, according to a new report in the prestigious journal Science, is that as the ocean continues warming due to the burning of fossil fuels, they'll have to slow down or dive deeper or just stay away from certain areas of the sea that are warming faster than their warm-blooded bodies can adjust to. At the same time, they'll be competing for increasingly rare prey due to overfishing and other factors. If you're a shark, you can't just pop into the supermarket and buy more food, claims Nick Payne, the lead author of the report. Although, if I see a white shark in my supermarket aisles, I'll let it take whatever it wants from the meat counter. I still have land shark nightmares from those early Saturday night sketches. The point, I guess, is that the evolutionary advantage that big fish like white sharks have had over millions of years is now becoming a disadvantage as we continue to overheat our blue marble planet. So what can we do? Well, vote the ocean this November for one. And remember, if there's not something bigger and meaner than you are out there, it's not really a wilderness. And that's blue news you can use. And we're back. So Natalie, you're from the U.S. mainland, but before we get to having you explain how you ended up in Roatan, let's go even further back and ask, what was your first connection with the ocean?
Well, I've been a water baby from day one growing up on the shores of Southern California. So I spent my weekends boogie boarding. I think one of my favorite pastime with my cousin was swimming out as far as we could and waiting to see when the lifeguards would call us back. So I've always loved the ocean. I've always been around the ocean. I've always been fascinated with it. My mom will even pull out a report I wrote on seahorses in the fourth grade.
I love those seahorses. So what did you do after fourth grade?
Well, I was on the very traditional track. I graduated, went to college, got a degree in mass communications, and actually graduated in 3 years and went right into the corporate world and sort of found myself further and further away from the ocean, to be honest. And it wasn't until I met my husband. So I worked for a sustainable food technology and he worked for a media company. And I was actually an unhappy customer at one point. So we met when we were having to discuss our account. And I think he made it his lifelong mission to make me a happy customer after that. And fortunately, he said, I'm a scuba instructor. And I said, wow, scuba diving is one of those things I've always wanted to do. I've been fascinated with it, but it seemed like something otherworldly. It's almost like going to the moon, like being an astronaut. And I was completely sold. And I found that I was madly in love with the ocean.
And with Shannon as well, your darling husband, whom I adore.
Exactly. And actually, this whole thing was his crazy dream. He wanted to live on an island and build a dive center that was based on community and felt more like community. And I really wanted to get into conservation on the front lines. And what better way than getting to be kind of boots on the ground or fins in the water through our own dive operation?
What I find that is so unique is your personal philosophy of conservation and how you bring that in. It's really hard to find a dive shop that centers their diving and their education around protection and the reef.
Yeah, I think what makes us different is that stewardship isn't just a program that we run. It's really the foundation of our business model. So every decision that we make, from the partnerships we build to who we hire to how we teach our courses, is really guided by the question of, is this good for the reef? Is this good for our people? Is this good for the community? That's why we're a Green Fins member. We self-audit ourselves for sustainability every year. It's why we invest in coral restoration and support the local NGOs here. And it's why we try to create opportunities also for our guests to become part of conservation instead of just observing it.
How do your divers feel? Do they feel excited that they are having a conservation experience, or are they kind of like, I just want to go diving and spear fish?
I don't think that we're in the business of selling scuba diving. Like, yes, people come here to experience a beautiful reef or to learn a new skill and pick up a new hobby. But I think what they're really enjoying is the connection. And that's connection to nature. That's a deeper connection to themselves when they accomplish earning a certification or find themselves in a beautiful, peaceful environment like the under the water world. But it's also connection to community. And the way we feel our community is through conservation. We make it fun, we make it exciting, and people are coming back year after year and even timing their dives so they can participate in our conservation events.
So your dive shop operates adjacent to the Roatan Marine Park, and that is one of the kind of the highlights of that region.
So Roatan is one of 8 islands that make up the Bay Islands, and we are part of a national marine park. It's called the Bay Islands National Marine Park. And that marine park, the guidelines and rules that are put in place to protect it are developed in partnership between local government and local NGOs. And so we have what are called 13 co-managers who help enforce the protection of the Bay Island National Marine Park. The Roatan Marine Park is a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3 in the United States, as well as a Honduran nonprofit that is one of those co-managers. And their primary focus is on marine patrolling for illegal fishing and activities on the reef, marine infrastructure, which is the mooring lines that we use to tie up the boats, channel markers, so that we're not creating any mechanical damage on the reef. They also have a research program that includes coral restoration and community outreach, as well as alternative livelihood projects.
So those mooring lines, when you say mechanical damage, it's so you can tie off without dropping anchors on the living corals.
Exactly.
My friends who started Reef Relief back in the 90s in the Florida Keys were early mooring line advocates. And now it's common around the world, no? For dive sites.
It is much more common, especially in the Caribbean. And I think as people have recognized just how much damage anchoring can do, you do see it in other regions of the world. But the more education that gets out there, hopefully, the less we've seen this compared to the 90s for sure.
And you were also a board member of the Roatan Marine Park. How does that connect into your dive shop operations?
Well, I think for us, making sure that our business healthy is really tied to making sure that the reef is healthy, right? Like this is part of the long-term sustainability and livelihoods, not only of our dive shop, honestly, but the whole coastal community of Roatan. So for me, part of helping that happen is dedicating my time as a board member on the marine park. We're a governing board, so we help develop and set the strategic vision for the marine park. And we help provide any counsel and expertise we can based on individual board members' professional background and experience.
So, and describe what the reef looks like also when you get there and the changes that are happening on the reef.
Well, Roatan is best known for its wall diving and its topography. So most of our dives started as a shallow plateau, which makes it very accessible for divers of all experiences. But then that leads to a wall that drops down and creates this really sort of majestic, humbling experience to be gliding along these big walls and having these just amazing vistas to look at. Sometimes you just glide over the plateau and just let yourself fall down along the wall. And it's a really cool kind of free falling experience. We have lots of canyons, swim throughs. So there's a little bit of adventure and thrill there, but it's pretty easy diving. And they call it the crown jewel of the Western Caribbean. I think we're fortunate while we have been hit with the same diseases, the same coral bleaching events that a lot of the Western Caribbean has, that we still have relatively healthy coral. We're seeing a lot of regeneration. We have obviously a lot of grassroots coral restoration efforts happening here and people that care. And we're doing everything we can to also educate tourists on how they can be part of the solution as well.
And the fish populations are very healthy compared to some of the others because you are really working together as a community to keep the ecosystem healthy. You're limiting take except for the lionfish where people are able to go out and get their license. So it's quite remarkable to see the Caribbean in the big picture and yet see Roatan looking so healthy and still having phenomenal coral reefs and fish populations.
Yeah, and one of the things that surprised me about Roatan right off the bat is that they were very early adopters of lionfish as ingredient on the menu. And so while other regions had to do a lot of educating and kind of cajoling to get restaurateurs in the area to adopt the fish as something that they would use, you'll see it on the menu everywhere here. And so that's been really helpful in reducing lionfish populations because people can go out and hunt lionfish and then sell them to local restaurants.
And you also have a good education program trying to guide people to stay away from taking any of the herbivores that are on the reef. And so I think that is between that and the relationship with the Navy and the patrol, the nonprofits, and then also shops like yours who are really educating the divers. It is making a big difference. And I think that when you go diving there, you can really see those positive elements, the fruit of everyone's labor, so to speak, or the spawn of everyone's labor. David and I were having a meeting, and I was sitting here at my desk burning a new mask, actually one that I bought on Roatan. And we got to thinking, let's interview Natalie and talk about this foggy mask situation in addition to a few other things.
Right.
So
and
let's
part
settle
of
this
that
thing.
discussion was set off by, I bought this mask that says it has a fog-proof coating. And so far, about 25 dives later, it's still pretty fog-proof.
Cool. That's great. I know there is a product on the market. I think it's called Fog X. I've yet to try it, but would definitely be interested in it. But if you don't have that, okay. Yes, you can spit in your mask. That's sort of the most organic defog that you can use. It's not my favorite, and I wouldn't recommend spitting in a rental mask, but
True.
you want a pro's take on how to not have to deal with a foggy mask, I would say first, when you purchase it, as long as it's not a mirrored lens, you can have the dive center burn it for you. That eliminates this film inside that tends to fog up. And after I do that for guests, I also put a layer of toothpaste in it and I leave it overnight if they're not diving right away. And then I take a toothbrush the next morning and I scrub that toothpaste, rinse it off. And then before every dive, you are going to have to use some sort of defog so that you can go all natural and spit in your own mask. But we recommend using a defog solution, but making sure that it is reef safe. And the one that we use at our dive center is stream to sea. Some people will say, well, do one or the other. I just give it the 1-2 punch so that we're using all of the resources that we have. And then again, just making sure no baby shampoo, no soap, because those can contain chemicals that may not be good for the reef. And so making sure you use something that has been proven to be safe for the reef.
What if your favorite night out also gave you hope for the ocean? That's ocean optimism. I'm Rick McPherson, and on the fourth Thursday of every month, we gather at Faction Brewing in Alameda, California for inspiring conversations with scientists, filmmakers, artists, and changemakers, all with great beer and a welcoming community. Come for the stories, stay for the people, leave knowing where you fit into the solution. Learn more at oceanoptimism.org. That's oceanoptimism.org.
Rising Tide is dedicated to telling inspiring stories. To keep bringing you the saltiest of characters from around the world and ocean champions from the farthest coasts, we need your support. Share, subscribe, and like the show wherever you listen, and consider making a tax-deductible donation at bluefront.org to keep us online and on the air. Visit bluefront.org and join the movement. And now, back to the show.
Oh, and we had a whole episode on coral safe sunblock. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. So I've been fortunate to work alongside Vicki at the Inland Ocean Coalition, as well as the Roatan Marine Park and the Bay Island Conservation Association to develop Roatan's Eco-Safe Sunscreen Coalition. This is a project that has been a couple years in the making. And we hopped on board because one of the first things we experienced living on the island of Roatan was that it was very difficult to find reef-safe sunscreen. So we decided to organize ourselves as a non-toxic sunscreen zone. It was all happening kind of serendipitously that Vicki was visiting, and this was a major topic of conversation, and we felt like we could mobilize and do something here. We came together and we really mobilized the community, both locals that live here in the community as well as business owners, to put together a petition to create a law that would ban the sale of sunscreens with 6 primary ingredients that have been proven through research to be harmful to corals. And so that legislation is, I believe, hopefully soon to be passed, and then we'll see how we can support enforcement of it. But nonetheless, our dive center and hopefully some others have already taken the steps to make this a guideline and a rule with their customers.
So in reporting around the world, I've noticed one interesting thing is a lot of the world's fishermen and even a lot of the residents of island states don't know how to swim, more or less dive. So you have a program also out of your shop called Roa Girls Dive. Maybe you could tell us briefly about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, I have noticed when I've dived around the world that a lot of times dive professionals they're expats coming from different countries. You may not see a lot of locals participating in diving either because of cultural beliefs about diving underwater, swimming deep, or socioeconomic barriers. And in addition to that, as a female owner and operator of a dive center, I'm very aware of the statistics when it comes to women's participation in diving. And so I felt like one of the ways that I wanted to be able to give back and to ensure that our dive community was really an inclusive dive community was by creating a scholarship program for young women and girls from the island of Roatan to learn to scuba dive. Our scholarship program has 3 goals. The first is enriched lives. We see scuba diving as a healthy outlet, a great way to make friends, a very positive activity to have in your life. The second is environmental stewardship. You protect what you love, right? And as an expat, I can't vote on laws here in Roatan, but these women and their families, as they share their experiences and they share what's out there underwater and this amazing natural resource that we have to protect, they can have a voice and they can be advocates for ensuring that Roatan grows in a sustainable way that doesn't damage the reef further. So that's a very important element of our scholarship program. And lastly, we want to introduce these young women to professional pathways, whether that is in the diving industry itself or opening their eyes to other possible careers like becoming a marine biologist.
You protect what you love, and it's great to educate people about the ocean with like books like My New Forest of the Sea or documentaries like Our Sequoias of the Sea, but it's nothing like actually immersing yourself in the other 71% of our planet. What advice would you give someone who's thinking about learning to dive? What should a first-time diver know, and what is the mistake you find most common to beginners?
I think maybe the most common mistake is that you have to be fearless to want to dive. And that really isn't the case. It's healthy. It's good to have a healthy dose of fear. That means you're going to be making sure that you are doing everything to keep yourself safe. But I think there's a way to challenge that fear into curiosity, right? And so the tips that I would give people before they enter the water is slow down, master your buoyancy through the process, and remember that every dive is an opportunity to make a difference.
Sounds beautiful. And I know so often, even experienced divers who haven't been in the water for a few months go like, oh, you get that little excitement and your heart's pounding and like, will my mask fog up? Oh no. Slow down and just take a breath.
Take a breath, double check your gear. You're in no rush. You're entering a other world. I mean, it's like you were saying, you thought it was like going to the moon, but it's actually going to living alien worlds. I mean, we've got a $5 billion project right now to map Europa, moon of Saturn, to see if there's a living ocean below the ice. And we know this whole planet that's mostly living ocean.
Yeah, we should learn more about it. And speaking of learning, I just wanted to know two things. One, I want to know what your favorite animal experience is and what animal out there do people not really appreciate enough that is magical or really interesting?
Ooh, I love every living creature under the sea, but I think an experience that maybe let me know that I was in the right place was my very first week of living here on Roatan. I was out on some dives and we came upon a pod of rough-toothed dolphins, and there must have been like 50 of them. And we were able to jump in the water snorkeling with them. And it was just the most incredible experience because they were seemingly very curious about us. They were wanting to play. They were jumping out of the water and diving down under us and spinning all around us. And it was just amazing to come so close to these beautiful creatures. And I felt at the time like it was a sign from the universe that I had made the right move.
What about an underappreciated animal?
I think one of the most unsung heroes of the reef, especially here in Roatan, are going to be giant barrel sponges. So I don't think people realize that many of these giant barrel sponges are hundreds of years old. They've been around since the time of the dinosaurs, which is incredible. And they're really important filter feeders for the ocean. So I just love them because they are such a critical component of our ecosystem. And they're also just really majestic and beautiful to look at. And they also, if you look really close, are home to lots of little critters too. So don't underestimate your barrel sponge and make sure you slow down and take a little bit of time to admire it.
And looking into a barrel sponge, you'll see these little shrimp and chromies, bright colored fishes, and that constant shifting from looking at the micro to the macro, looking at the density of life in the little indices of the coral reef structures, and then looking out and seeing a big trevally or shark or eagle ray. It's otherworldly.
And yeah, I have so many underwater photos of barrel sponges because they have such incredible shapes and the sizes are amazing. But one thing I cannot figure out, how do those crabs get in there? But more importantly, how do those crabs get out? That's such a mystery.
We need like a time lapse video to see how they get themselves out of there. I don't know. I have the same question. I've seen many inside, but never any actually able to claw their way out.
No.
Every
Anyhow.
dive brings new wonders and new mysteries and questions unanswered.
So we'll have to keep diving, and if we can actually do a video of a crab climbing out of one of those barrel sponges, we'll have to share that out.
It's like Isaac Denison wrote, "The cure for anything is salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea."
Natalie Shuman, thank you very much. Gosh, owner of Sun Divers, a boutique dive shop, active volunteer with the Inland Ocean Coalition, champion of petrochemical-free sunscreen. Thank you so much for joining us on the Rising Tide Ocean podcast.
Thank you, David and Vicki, so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us on the Rising Tide Ocean podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Leave us a review and share Rising Tide with your friends. Follow us on Instagram and check out bluefront.org for more ocean resources and connections. Rising Tide is a production of Blue Frontier, co-hosted by David Helvarg and Vicki Nichols-Goldstein of the Inland Ocean Coalition, with support from producer Holden Hardcastle of Fluid Studios, editing services by Charles Landon of Studio Cape May, and additional support from Blue Frontier's Natasha Benjamin and Nick Paz. This is Joy Lele Shikazado of Blue Frontier, asking you to stay hopeful and stay salty.
Off in the salty ocean, off where the waves roll free. The sparkling water rises, then crashes to the sea. Out amongst the breakers, you'll have no need to fear. It's true, it's the Blue Frontier. Off in the salty ocean, off to the Blue Frontier.
Sparky, come here, buddy. Sparky! There you are, good boy, Sparky.